So welcome everyone to another episode of Women Who Lead. And thank you so much for tuning in. This month, I'm so excited because we're celebrating both Fair Housing Month and Diversity Month. And with me today, I have three impactful women, of which each are prominent forces within their organizations and are passionate about making an impact within the communities they serve. So for those who have not joined us before, my name is Teresa Palacios Smith, and I'm Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for HomeServices of America. And I'm the host of this series where we get together every single month with powerful industry leaders who share their experiences over un cafecito, which is a custom in my country of Colombia. So I'm really excited. I want to get started. So I want to introduce you to our impactful leaders today. And with me, I have Kim Bakey, and Kim is the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices First Realty, Iowa Realty, and HomeServices of Iowa, which covers the state with a primary focus in the Des Moines area. Kim is a trained CPA with over 35 years of experience in the real estate industry. She's an Iowa native, which I think is so really cool, and is active in the community, serving on several local boards, committees, and charities. Kim was recently elected to serve as the 2023 president of the Des Moines Area Association of Realtors. Welcome, Kim. I'm excited to have you on the show.
Thanks, Teresa. It's great being here.
Liz Goodchild. Liz is the team leader of the Goodchild team, which is the #1 team at Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices Starck Real Estate in Chicago. She and her team represent 0.5% of all the realtors in the Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices franchise network. And they've been that way for the past 2 years. So congratulations, Liz. That's fantastic. She's also the immediate past president of the Chicago chapter of the Asian Real Estate Association of America, also known as ARIA. We're very active with ARIA. And she also hosts a great show, Good to Know radio show, which airs on AM 1160. So Liz, I'm so excited that you're here as well. And then Janet Malden. Janet is the Senior Vice President of Relocation for Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices Georgia Properties. For those of you know, that's where I came from. So I'm excited to have Janet here. She has over 30 years of experience working in the real estate industry and is leading one of the top award-winning relocation departments in the country. And I'm so proud of that because I came from that department. Janet has served in numerous leadership roles and is very active as well. And she's involved with the Metro Atlanta Relocation Council, the Relocation Directors Council, and also is part of the Worldwide Employee Relocation Council. She's a proud spouse and mother of military veterans. So welcome, Janet. It's so good to see you as well. So, again, Janet, yeah, absolutely. So let's get started. And one of the things that everyone wants to know, and for me, it's really important to know because of the real estate industry and being so unique, and either you get into it by choice, some people get in it by chance. How did you get started and what does your role entail? And so I'm going to start with you, Janet, because a lot of people may not know what the role of a relocation director is, a senior vice president. So tell me a little bit about how you got started and then about your role as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Teresa. So I started in 1993, actually in the mortgage business. So that's how I kind of got into this world. And in 2001, I got my real estate license. So I had no intention of selling real estate. Really, it was just I was on the mortgage end, and I was going to get my real estate license so that we could have dual roles within our organization. And that kind of led into my passion for real estate. So, I've been with this organization since 2010, as you know, and this year I will be celebrating 13 years with Berkshire Hathaway. So my role within the organization is referral channel development. And a lot of people don't really understand exactly what that is and what that entails. So I'm responsible for bringing and identifying new lead sources to our agents. And those lead sources may be corporate relocation, broker-to-broker referrals, other lead sources that we bring to our agents within Georgia properties. And so, within that role, also, I'm responsible for agent training. We make sure all of our agents that are on our team, that they're highly qualified, and we put them through training. And then also just to nurture the existing relationships that we have with existing clients, like third-party relocation companies. We've got companies that we do business with here locally, working with Chamber of Commerce's. Whenever companies are looking to relocate their headquarters or expand here in the metro Atlanta area. So it kind of like encompasses a lot of those roles. And I have an amazing team here at Georgia Properties that helps me each and every day achieve and be able to manage all of those responsibilities.
I love it. And there's a lot of people that don't realize there's a lot of nuances to that role. And there's a lot of training that's required from the agent's perspective, because corporations have a lot of policies that we have to adhere to in that side of the business. So it's incredibly important. And so Janet, thank you for sharing that with us. Kim, how about you?
Some of those dates align with Janet here, but I started in the business, if you will, back in 1994. I actually worked in public accounting. You get out and see all kinds of industry and explore all different avenues. And I had an opportunity to go to work for an insurance company out there that was a client at the time. And believe it or not, they owned a real estate company. So after working there with some of their non-life holdings across the country, had the opportunity to come down into real estate, into the line of business, learn what that was all about. And, real estate is fast paced. It moves quickly. There's not a lot of time to think about things. It's a lot of fun. In 2001, I decided if I was going to be in this business, I probably needed to get my real estate license as well. Understand what everybody was really dealing with on the ground, get that same education. I came up through the finance arm of it, had the opportunity to oversee relocation, some mortgage relationships, title relationships, settlement, HR, and kind of all the facets around it. I'm probably one of very few people leading a real estate company that never sold real estate. But if you've got a great team with people of that skill set, that's one thing you'll learn. You can rely on them, and you don't have to have walked in every single facet of the organization. So I've been with the company now 35 years. So great organization.
And a lot of people, I didn't realize it, Kim, because a lot of CEOs actually come from, I know that Dan Forsman came from that CPA background. It's really important to understand the financial aspect of our business. And I think that is something that's very insightful, because I have found that many of our CEOs within the companies that we represent have your background.
Well, it is surprising, and it's kind of it wouldn't be a traditional path for a CPA, but it's been a great path for me. A lot of opportunity there.
Thank you, Kim. Liz, how about you?
Well, you can add me to that list. I do have a CPA also, and an MBA. So I kind of started that way, just like Kim. But mine is a very unique thing. I actually graduated from Loyola University, got my CPA, and out there going to join Arthur Andersen, which is at that time the biggest CPA company in the world. And I got a job with Motorola out in the suburbs. So I started looking for an apartment in the suburbs, and I found out it was cheaper to buy than it was to rent. Okay. And I met this gal who was a realtor, and she didn't know much of FHA and first time home buyers and putting, no money down and things like that. I researched it, and I showed her how we should get an FHA loan with $2,000. Well, when we went to closing, I saw her commission. So I go, okay, if she can do that, I can do it too. So I got my license, but for 14 years, I was just doing real estate part-time. I always say, whenever I wanted to go on vacation, I sold a house. So I started out climbing the corporate world. I had iconic companies like Arthur Andersen, McDonald's, Motorola. In my last gig, I was the CFO of Chicago Magazine for 8 years. And I got pregnant with twins, and those twins put me on bed rest for 5 months. And at that time, I remember it very clearly, Chicago Magazine asked me to sell Chicago Magazine out in the world. And, I help out selling the magazine to Chicago Tribune. 2 days before the merger and acquisition, they told me that I wasn't part of the package. So I lost my job as the CFO of Chicago Magazine. I have a 3-year-old and twins, and I was in bed rest. So what do? Well, I had this license called real estate. So I started that way. I started my real estate company in the basement of my house, created a boutique company called the Goodchild Homes. And then I I bought a franchise with a great company before going to Berkshire Hathaway. And then after 10 years of franchising, I sold my company to Berkshire Hathaway, and my whole team went under Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices Starck, and we are the #1 team in that franchise right now.
It's amazing. What an incredible story. And I think that's really kind of the phenomenal aspect of real estate, that allows you to be a mother. It allows you to be able to work that type of shift. So I think that's, really interesting. And I didn't know that about you, Liz. It's great to learn that side of what you did. I know that we're celebrating. We talked about fair housing and obviously diversity, and that's so important to the role that I have. So what are y'all doing in your organizations to create awareness and make an impact? What types of things? And Liz, I'll start with you.
So I have been part of the Asian Real Estate Association of America for the last 10 years. And last year I was president, but that was 2 times I've been a president. I was also president in 2013. And I'm really, really passionate about getting the home ownership into the hands of immigrants like me. So, coming to America back in 1978, my family lived in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath bungalow in Chicago with 19 other people. Okay. And my whole family lived in the attic, of that house. So, most immigrants really, really work very hard to get to this land of opportunity. And I share that very, very thing that made us move here in America. And so my passion is truly about increasing that home ownership in everybody's, in all these people that come to America to leave, the land of opportunity. And that's why I'm so passionate about joining groups like ARIA.
I think that's so beautiful, and it's so true, because that's the same story of my family coming from Colombia, and how homeownership really made a difference and an impact in my life. And we did the same. We had people live with us anyone that was always new would always live with us. I never understood that, but we would always have families that would migrate from Colombia, live with us for several months until we could get them into a home. So it is definitely a dream for so many people. How about you, Janet?
So, here at Georgia Properties, we encourage, especially this month, each and every one of our associates to sign the Fair Housing Pledge, and also take your At Home with Diversity course. So that's something that, it's an initiative for this month that we have been pushing. And then also we are encouraging our associates to take the Fair Haven course, which is offered through NAR. And that's something else. It's a fair housing simulation. So we're encouraging all of our associates to do that. And then, of course, our DE&I committee, which is led by Wendy Allen, our senior vice president and managing broker here. We have a really, really busy DEI committee, and lots of fun things planned for this year in community outreach projects. But next week, we're working on a project which is called Nourish the Hungry. It's a sandwich event, and each one of our branch offices are going to be making sandwiches for the homeless. So that's something that we're just doing, just this month at Georgia Properties. But we have an entire calendar through the end of the year lined out of community outreach events that are planned.
You do such an incredible job. And I have to also give shout out to Wendy Allen and the DE&I team there, because they really do such great work. I know Diana Nolan also in the community. She does a lot of community outreach as well. So shout out to all of the DEI council members because they do a phenomenal job. And you did mention the At Home with Diversity course, so I do have to do a shout out for that because we are actually teaching it globally through our network. And that's going to be on April 19th. So if you haven't had a chance to go to the Resource Center and view that, please do, because it is a NAR course that's phenomenal. It is allows you to get the certification once you've completed that course. And Kim, I know you've taken that course because that is something that Gino actually asked all of his leaders to do 2 years ago before it was like the thing to do, right? He was kind of, and for those who don't know, it's a 7-hour course. So he had every single company, every single CEO and their leadership take it. And Kim, you were one of the first to jump on that wagon. But not only have you done that, you asked me to come back and do it as well in person for those agents that had not had the chance to take the course in person.
You're right, Teresa. We did do that 2 years ago. We had our entire management team go through that training, and we had you back to host that session with all of our sales associates as well that participated. So we've been working diligently, as I'm sure every company has, around DEI. We have an active DEI committee. We've got events planned for next week. In fact, is it Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon? We'll be hosting a community event with our local area chamber of commerce, addressing multicultural events. We'll have a task force of community members discussing housing and housing equity out there and how we grow equity for people to get into the housing market, because that's always a concern, how we educate. We've been working for about 2 years with the local Section 8 development here with a lot of immigrants in it, educating them, because owning a home is more than just getting that down payment and the payment. What comes with the responsibility? How do you handle things like that in today's environment and community? So we've been working with them through educational classes and things like that as people get to the stage where they can explore home ownership, they're ready and they understand what that is. So we've been doing that. We've got other great projects lined out. As Janet said, our DEI committee is active as well with our foundation, and we've got things with Habitat. We've been out building houses for years with them every year, helping get more individuals into homes that they put their sweat equity into. So we've got a great.
I know,
activity.
Kim, last year, you were so involved because BHE is headquartered, in Mid-American Energy is located there, and Berkshire Hathaway Energy actually had a huge event that your company was so supportive and so involved with. And I can't thank you enough, because the Diversity Council and your company was just all in and helping us make that a success. So you are, Leela Granger and your team, they just do a great job in helping our organization look good in the marketplaces, in the communities there in Iowa.
That was a big project, a fun event, and we were glad we could help out and support. And I know the people out in Oregon are happy to support it this year as well.
That's right. It's going to be there this year.
Get it out there. Yeah.
So moving on to leadership, because I think that's really important. What is, each of us is a leader in a different way. And that's the one thing I've learned in my role. I see how different leaders operate. So what are the most important qualities that you believe are needed in pursuing leadership opportunities for those who are really wanting to get to take that direction? And Kim, I'll start with you.
No, I think the first thing you have to be aware of is moving into a leadership position is not an easy role. I mean, it's not the Friday afternoon golf outings, the Monday afternoon drinks, things like that. There's a lot of roll up your sleeves. You've got to be authentic. Integrity is critical, I think, and you really have to be willing to do the heavy lift as well. A lot of people are looking at you, and I think you've got to be willing to do and walk right alongside with your team if you really want to earn their respect out there.
I like that. Do and say, what you're going to do, actually walk that walk. I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
Janet, how about you? Because you've had a phenomenal leadership track there at Georgia Properties.
Yeah, so I think, Teresa, 3 things come to mind for anyone that's looking to get in a leadership role. And number 1 is going to be strong communication skills. So you need to be able to effectively communicate with agents, your team, and then more importantly, listen to that feedback. So, communication is key, and that's number one. And then number two would probably be strategic thinking. For me, me, Teresa, I'm an ops girl, I'm a data girl. So you need to be able to analyze that data and make decisions based upon that, not emotional decisions, but decisions based on data. And then to be able to look at that data and identify opportunities for growth, and be able to put a plan together and execute that plan. And then finally, the third one is a passion for real estate. So you have to have a crazy passion for this business, because this business never stops. And you're going to be in a role that is going to be encouraging and leading agents to achieve their goals. So you need to be a cheerleader for this business. You need to know the market, and be able to, teach and lead these agents, and help them achieve their goals in their career. So that would probably be my top three.
Oh, I think those are great recommendations. And Liz, you lead a team. And so I've always loved you've even got, goals around how your agents actually can be successful. So tell us about what that is.
So in terms of being a leader, what are the three things that you have to have? For me, the number one thing is really having a servant heart. And I think that if you are thinking that you're going to lead to feed your ego, it's just not going to work. They're going to see through you. And so what has worked for me, and it's been 34 years. I've mentored and coached over 300 agents in my career. My thing is, I want to make you successful, but people can see through that. If you truly are sincere about making someone successful and putting aside your own agenda, they will trust you. And so that's the second thing, is trust, right? They need to trust you in order to follow you. And then the last thing is truly about being a good role model. One of the reasons why I love being a leader is because it steps up my game. And because now I really got to do those phone calls. I really got to do those, those follow-ups. I really got to show up. I really, all these things that I preach, I got to do, right? So what happens? It steps up my game. So you have to be a good role model in order for people to really see that what works really works, right?
I think those are great. That's great advice for those. And one thing I learned that was hard for me was also you have to take constructive criticism, right? To me, that was always something I'm like, oh my God, that hurt my feel, but you really learn from when somebody says, hey, you might want to do this instead, right? That will be helpful. And that's always tough for a lot of people to take that constructive criticism. I think that's really important too. Kim, I know you operate several companies. It's not just, one company that you're operating several different entities within your organization. And I'm so impressed with that. And you do it so beautifully. If you go to your company, it's like a machine. So how do you do that? How have you been able to be so effective in leading so many different areas?
I think it's really being authentic and really digging in and understanding the different areas. Brokerage is different from title, is different from settlement, is different from mortgage, and understanding the nuances, insurance, and how they all can work together, and working alongside each of the leaders you have there, because you've got to have a great team to really make it hum. And we've got good leaders in each of those roles. And like I said, you don't have to know the nitty gritty of everything, but you've got to trust, you've got to have authentic leaders out there, and you've got to be willing to walk with them.
And you have
it works
an
pretty well.
incredible team, Kim. I'm telling you, it's like smooth. And I know that when I come in, I can call any one of your team members and they know what's happening and they immediately respond. So I just have to give kudos to everyone that you work with. I've just been so overwhelmed with every time I come in. They're just so phenomenal and so gracious. And that comes from you, from leadership.
Thank you.
And now here's another one. So Janet, I recently approached you with a challenge. that you had to take on. And so let's talk about that, because sometimes being uncomfortable is actually what makes us strong. And in fact, at the Berkshire Hathaway Home Services conference, Gino really talked about how challenges actually is what gives us the grit to really move on and to, to really be powerful. So tell me about that challenge and how you overcame what you thought was going to be something you could not do.
Oh, wow. You talk about like stepping out of your comfort zone. I was shoved out of my comfort zone on this one. So Teresa called me one day and, and said, hey, Johnny Johnson is looking for a master facilitator for a book that he co-authored. And I immediately thought of you. I thought, he's looking for someone that has a child in high school sports. And the title of Johnny's book is From Athletics to Engineering, 8 Ways to Support Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for All. And so I thought, out of all the people that Teresa could have reached out to, and the contacts that she has, you guys wanted me. So, of course I said yes. But I was absolutely terrified. I mean, you want to talk about out of my comfort zone. So I went straight to my HR girl's office, closed the door, Diana Nolan, and cried. And I said, this subject is so important, and it's been so heavily politicized that, we've got to continue to move things forward, right? And so it was something that was really it was probably one of the best things that I have done. And it was a great experience. Lots of phone calls with Johnny, working through this. But basically, I was a master facilitator for a national book study with the National Federation of State High School Associations. So it was, comprised of athletic directors, teachers, administrators, that we went through this book study together, and it was great. And the intent is then to roll it out to parents and students, and kind of branch out from there. We at Georgia Properties did the book study, and we, it has just gone like wildfire. Gino's the one that brought this to us, and he is a man who truly practices what he preaches. And it was an amazing experience. So thank you for pushing me out of my comfort zone.
And you were the perfect person. And Johnny has really commented how wonderful you did in leading that facilitating that first book study. And again, we are also looking for others across the country to help us with that. But I just thought it was incredible because you never let me know that. So I never knew how uncomfortable you were. It was not something that you let on. So thank you again, because that's really what makes us strong is definitely those little accomplishments that we actually take on. And so Liz, I want to know from you, what do you consider your biggest accomplishment?
Wow. Well, the biggest accomplishment that I think is truly creating a model, a company that actually touches people's lives. And I think that what I do with the Goodchild team, I feel really, really good about it. And I think that my mission in life is to impact as many lives as I can. And I feel like I got a platform to do that in real estate. And not only are the agents that comes through and wanted to be a realtor, but also, all those families that we help. I've sold over 2,000 homes in my lifetime, and every single one of them has a story, right? So I think just this God-given opportunity that, that I'm living today is, to me, the greatest accomplishment. And I'm very, very grateful about it.
Oh, and I could not agree with you more. That's beautiful, Liz. And you have an incredible team. I've had the opportunity when I've spoken at ARIA in Chicago, and you've invited me to come out to speak at that group to meet your team members. And they are just all as passionate as you are of making a difference in the communities they serve. And you have an array of different team members that are part of your team. So thank you again for doing that. I think that's incredible. Now, the next question is about things that, because we're always wanting to get better. And so one of the things that I always ask, is there a course or a book so meaningful and helpful to you that you would like to pass it on to our audience? And what made that so special? Because I think, we're all about learning and self-improvement. So I'll start with you, Kim.
You asked us that a couple months ago too, when we were talking for another presentation, and I looked back, and really there's a ton of business books out there, and you can read them and they give you little insights and snippets here and there and things. But I think the ones I enjoy the most are the ones that are more fable-based written, really take away. They're easy to read, they're quick reads. And the one thing I find is, as I read business books, if they get real deep and require a lot of concentration, I love having the escape while you're reading. So if you go with the Ken Blanchard books, Fish, and some things that are fables about how you're building customer service, culture, leadership, those are really the ones that make an impact on me. I don't know that I have a certain favorite that just turned me on a dime, but as I think about the type that I get the most enjoyment and probably the most takeaway out of, it would be along those lines, raving fans and so forth.
Thank you so much, Kim. How about you, Janet?
So I would say probably Ninja Selling has been one of the favorite courses that I've taken. And we did the Ninja Manager training for all of our leadership. That was truly impactful because I really wish that I would have had that at the beginning of my career. I might have Gino's job now if I would have had that. But I love the Ninja Selling, the Ninja Manager training, and then the 4 Disciplines of Execution is a book that, we at Georgia Properties did just an internal book study with all the leadership here, and we were assigned accountability partners. And that truly has helped us stay on track, keep focus on our goals. And, I would highly recommend, it would be great for agents to read that book, because it truly, if I would have had these 2 things at the beginning of my career, I think that things would be very different for me at this moment, 30 years later.
Gino, a big one, 40X. That's his philosophy and what we live by. Liz, how about you?
I'm going to share the same thing, 4DX. I mean, that is truly the base of what, how I lead my team, right? Accountability, accountability, accountability. So the 4 Disciplines of Execution, I really preach about that. But now, just a week ago, I have a new book. that I'm going to share with you. And it's a game changer for me right now. And it's so true. It's called Indistractable. Okay. Indistractable. Because right now we are so distracted constantly. And this book talks about how you can be indistractable. So what's amazing about it is that, self-awareness, if you can think, okay, we're all here. What is this, an hour? I'm trying to kind of not look at my phone, not pay attention to something else, kind of pay attention to this podcast. And, it's challenging, right? So, but that book talks about really self-awareness on how to keep yourself indistractable, because every time you get distracted in anything that you're doing, it takes 20 minutes to get back to the same task. So you're losing a lot of time to come back to where you were what you were doing if you keep on getting so distracted. And what are the distractions? Facebook, dog, laundry, cleaning, especially now that we're staying at home, a phone call. I mean, on and on and on and on. And how do you keep yourself really efficient and productive in just even 25 minutes?
Now, is that book on Audible? Do you know?
That's
Because that
Yes,
is my
it is.
thing. I am not, and everyone that knows me knows I do not like to read. I cannot read a book. It's just not my thing. But if it's on Audible, I can listen to it. And once I listen to it, it just makes sense to me. I do want, for those of you who are not familiar with the 4 Disciplines of Execution, I will tell you, it is a hard read. It was for me.
Yes.
I must have, problems with, dyslexia or something, because it was hard for me, but Gino makes it really simple to understand, as well as if you go online, you can actually find individuals who have broken it down on YouTube that really makes it so easy and so easy to apply. And you talked about the indestructible piece about if you veer off. Well, in that book, those are called whirlwinds, right? We all know those whirlwinds that affect us every single day, that cause us not to be able to meet those WIGs, those wildly important goals. And so I think all of those things really make sense. And I think that's how you get to those goals. And I couldn't agree with all of you, regarding where would we be if we had had that book many years ago, right? We could be all Genos, right? So as we are almost out of time, so I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. I think role models are really important. And one of the things that we are launching this year is our mentorship program, and mentees are really critical. And so and some people don't realize that that's always also hard to do because people are so busy with time. So who would you say is a big role model or mentor to you that you want to kind of just give a shout out on this show too? Because it's about leadership and how those role models have really impacted our lives to make us be able to get to where we are today. And I will start with you, Liz.
I hate that part. No, I know. No, it's just that, whenever you asked that question before, I had a very difficult time with it because I'm self-taught, so, and along the way, yes, these books are really what has been like role models for me and whatnot. So I racked my brain about, is there one person that actually I can say really, really changed my life? And I think, if I were to kind of sum it down to one thing, I would just give a shout out to my dad. And my dad was an entrepreneur, and to live the life of an entrepreneur is difficult, but yet very, very fulfilling. And I am just so glad that in a very, very age, my father has given me that spirit of how to become an entrepreneur. And that was what made me able to stop climbing the corporate ladder and creating my own company at a very young age.
I think that's beautiful. What a beautiful role model, right? And being an immigrant coming to this country, people don't realize the impact that has to have had, and to become an entrepreneur and to be successful in this country when the language is sometimes a challenge. I think that is big kudos to your father, Liz. Kim, how about you?
I'm going to go two directions. First, I'm going to say my father as well, because at an early age, he was always self-employed as well. He's a lawyer, had a lot of different opportunities, private practice and so forth, but always encouraged. Anything you wanted to do, you could do, and there never had to be a set path. Just get out there, and if you work hard and you give it your all, encouraged every step along the way. I would say my other mentor that really got me to where I am here today is probably Mike Knapp. Mike and I would have, he was the CEO here and ran the company for many, many years. His uncle was the founder. He knows more about real estate than, heck, he's forgotten more about real estate than I even know today. But when I came here in a finance role, and we've all been, well, at least Liz and I have been in that finance world. And you got to really take off your hat and go a different way. And I remember the day he said to me, by God, I'll never have an accountant tell me how to run a business. And I was like, shit. But, it put it in perspective, and you had to learn, and you learned the business then. And I'm almost sorry to say I've actually used that line a time or two now as well, because there are so many different facets out there and things you have to do. But he encouraged, he was supportive, he challenged, he had confidence, which I'm grateful for. So those would be the two that pop into my mind first.
I think that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Janet?
So this one's easy for me because Kathy Connolly, who is my boss, is my mentor. And, besides my parents, she was probably the person in my life that saw something in me that I could not see myself. And she has just mentored me in ways that I don't even think that she would ever understand. She saw something in me that I could not see in myself. I'm most comfortable behind the scenes, daily operations, making the company look good. That's what I like. Public speaking makes me want to break out in hives. Like, this is not something that I feel like I do well, but I used to sit back and watch Kathy and Teresa, when they would, be at an event speaking, they would come in and command the room. And I would just sit in awe of the both of you, thinking, I wish I had just an ounce of their confidence. And so Kathy saw something in me and knew that it was something she was going to have to push me out of my comfort zone. And she, put me in agent training, which that was something that I was very comfortable with. And that progressed into group move presentations. And now I can do a mean bus tour of Atlanta. Just things that, I would have never saw myself in that role had she not encouraged me and pushed me out of my comfort zone. So hands down, Kathy Connolly is, the best mentor in this business for me.
Oh, and me, I couldn't agree with you more. She actually, you see tears running down my eyes, because I have to agree, Kathy really has been a motivator and an inspirator for so many of us in the industry. And she was one of mine as well. And has really been just, so Kathy, if you're out there, we just want to give you shout out and kisses, because you really have impacted so many lives. All right. So as we narrow and finish, I always just real quick, what advice, and then we'll finish up. But what advice would you give someone, or wish somebody would have given you, that would have helped your career, years ago, or that you got that you thought, what a great advice? And I think that's something I want to share with others. And Liz, I'll start with you.
So you mentioned earlier something about when you said one thing that you have to take in as a leader is to be able to get criticisms and be able to handle that earlier. Now, I'm going to turn that around, Teresa, because one thing I learned is that everybody's not going to like you, so one of the things that I used to take every criticism, every feedback to heart, and it kills me, but at this age of the game, my career right now, what I found out, not out of the 300 people, I have 20 in my team. So that means 280 of them did not like me. So not everybody will like you, and you need to be okay with that.
Oh, that's beautiful, right? So true. Kim?
I think having a lot of tenacity, don't ever give up, have a positive mindset, and be confident in what you can do. You can push yourself further than you think you can. You can do more than you realize you can, and don't sell yourself short. Just be willing to embrace it, have the positive mindset, and get out and work hard.
Oh, beautiful. Janet?
So I think as females in this industry, we've always been told to say yes before no, right? And so what I would say is that what I've learned over the years is to say, instead of saying yes, that's a maybe. And before I say yes, I always ask myself these two things, like, who and what is this going to benefit? And is this going to bring me joy or advance the company's goal? Before I say yes, because I'm very intentional now with who and what fills my days. And, going through some of the leadership training, we were in one leadership training that Dan Forsman said to us, our former CEO, build your family around your business. And I had never been given permission to do that. And I've struggled with work, family, life balance. And so when he said that, that just resonated with me, that I needed to be very intentional with my family as well, and put the things that mattered the most in my schedule and then build the business around it. So that's what I would say, is that I know there's a lot of working mothers out there that have struggled with this, that you are not alone, and to build your business around your family.
Oh, you're going to make me cry because I think totally agree with that. That was always something I thought was important as well. And Dan had said that always, right? It was really important for all of us to do that. So as we signed off, as we finish, I have enjoyed talking to each of you and getting to know you better. And I really want to thank you so much for being part of this show. What is your favorite quote? I love affirmations. I love quotes because I think it really resonates with me. I've always been one of those. As y'all know, we recently were at the Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices convention, and we had our Women Who Lead luncheon, and we celebrated, and I gave each of you the Hathaway book because it is always something that for some reason it just sticks with me. So what is something that you would like to leave our audience with? And I will start with you, Liz.
My life verse, which is Jeremiah 29:11. And I say that, for I know the plans I have for you and for us, for the Lord not to harm us. And the plans that we do is always going to be in his plans. So Jeremiah 29:11.
Beautiful, beautiful. Kim?
I would probably say my quote that I venture back to often is by Vivian Green. Life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. And we've sure had to do that a lot over the last few years. And it comes true in so many aspects of your daily life.
That is one of my favorite quotes too. I know you told me that recently, and I think it's so true that we have to take, lemonade, do what we can, right? Enjoy the times, because you never know what's going to happen. It's always got to be positive. How about you, Janet?
I love both, Liz and Kim's quotes, but mine would be, if it is to be, it's up to me.
And it is up to you, right? It's up to each one of us to make a difference and to make an impact on the lives of others. And each of you have shown that through the words that you've given us today. And I really thought this quote was so appropriate when I was researching, the groups, because every group I work with, always I think about what impact you've had in my life. How have you changed my life? And each of you has such a special place for me. And so I thought this was beautiful. When you look at your life lived, how will you measure your success? For me, I want it to be how I was able to make a difference in the lives of many. And you've made a difference in my life. That's one by Jackie Robinson, the famous baseball player. And I just love that that quote, the impact. And I also want to thank all of you for being a part of the show today and for tuning in, our audience out there. I really appreciate it. This also becomes a podcast. So if you are familiar with our Women Who Lead series, our Facebook, if you go to Women Who Lead podcast, you can download the podcast in the next couple of weeks. And we have all types of series that are housed in the library there. So make sure you do like our page, join our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel as well. And come back here on May 10th. We're going to have another great group of women leaders that is going to be speaking on that date. And I would love for y'all to Zoom right in and meet those individuals. Thank you for watching the show. Thank you again for being part of this program. And remember, I have so many favorite segments, but this was one of my favorites. Always bring other women up the ladder with you as you climb to the top. See you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.